I'm going to be sitting for parts of it because, as many of you know, I recently had hip surgery. I can't stand. They let me off the crutches last week. It's great. So this is going to go over how to check the different weapons in Belegarth using Belegarth rules. We're going to kind of start from what I consider easiest to hardest, but it might be vaguely arbitrary. My name is Squire Nia from Durtamarian. I definitely forgot to introduce myself in the beginning. We're doing great. Eventually the ADHD meds will kick in. All right, we're gonna start with the what I consider actually just the easiest thing to check, which is a shield. The shield I have here is a shield with no wooden core; it's just a foam. To check a shield, the first thing you're kind of looking for is partially if somebody comes walking up holding it, making sure it's like size proportional to them. If it's too big for them, that's not allowed. It can't be more than 18. It has to be 18 inches or smaller than the long ways. Ish. It's 18, right? I think it's 18. But to check a foam core shield, the first thing you're going to do is you're going to rub your hand over it. What you're doing is you're looking for anything that might be embedded in the foam or any sharp objects. You do not want to hit it. That's how you stab yourself. You do this kind of gently and you kind of rub your hand over it. You'll also shake it to make sure it doesn't like flap or fold in half. We call this tacoing very often. If this shield has a wooden core or some kind of other hard core in it, you will also tap the edges. Feel the edges first, then tap them. You never want to be like hitting your hand with foam before you have checked to make sure, again, there's no sharp objects. This is like things from somebody accidentally left a sewing needle in the stuff to some mulch or a stick got embedded in the shield. It happens, but also if you're a fighter, kind of like check your shit over before you do that. All right, those are shields. Any questions? Lovely. Blue sword. Blue sword is a single-handed weapon. They're not required to have blue tape. This one has green tape to signify that it's stab legal. My advice is never to check something that if it doesn't have stab tape in your like weapons check. You can look at them and be like, do you think this is stab legal if you're feeling nice? But it's required to have this to designate it. Start off similar kind of things. You're gonna do your templating. So you're gonna take this, you're gonna check the tip. The big hole is for the stab tip of the sword. They're generally made half an inch and it can't go over the edge of all of this. So if for some reason it stuck through, it would fail. If it just like nicely sits in there without going over, it passes. And the smaller hole is for the pommel. There's that. There's that. Then the next thing you're gonna do is you're gonna feel the sword again. Make sure nothing's embedded in it. Also, you're checking to see if you can feel core. When you do this, you're not like jamming your fingers into it. That's actually just how you ruin someone's weapon. You're kind of taking your hand and you're squeezing it, kind of putting even pressure throughout your entire hand to see if you feel core, any cracks in the foams, divots, anything like that. Because this is a stab legal weapon, I'm also gonna like feel the stab tip. I generally do that by kind of pressing it against my palm. I have really tiny hands. Some people press it against their fingers. It's really just a matter of preference. And then to check this, you're going to hit it. You can either hit it against a friend's back or you can hit it against your leg. I'm gonna hit it against my leg, but you're gonna go. I'm not gonna fully hit these right now, but light. You're gonna kind of rotate it around because this is an omni weapon. Medium, hard. Light is like would be a solid hit in Belegarth. Medium is like would be a meanish hit in Belegarth. Hard is like harder than you should reasonably hit somebody, but sometimes people do crazy things with their weapons. If this is a bladed sword, meaning it has, it's not an omni sword, when you do your hits, you're gonna want to like turn it to a different. You're gonna like hit on one edge, turn it to the other side, hit it on the other edge, medium, and then you're gonna do hard on both sides, generally, or medium on both sides. People have different personal preferences about that. But for bladed weapons, you want to make sure you're actually checking both sides of the blade to make sure both sides pass. It'd be really pointless to just be like, I just hit with one side of this weapon and not actually checking if it passes. And then for checking stab, people have different preferences again about this. You can stab it into a buddy's back. You can stab it into your stomach. You can also like stab it into your leg. But you just go again light, like a solid stab, medium, a little bit hard, and then hard, which is really hard and is probably not a, nobody really wants to get stabbed by that one. Any questions? Great. I'm just gonna ask this every single time in case somebody does have one. All right, flail. Flails are a blue weapon. This one has tape on it. Some important things about this. This portion is, if you've never fought with a flail, this is the only portion that actually like can legally hit and do damage. There's a couple things that we're going to check for. Of course, we're going to do our typical template of the pommel. And then we're also going to feel the foam. Again, just make sure there's no divots, no, especially in this area, you can't feel core. It's not striking service, but there is some like politeness requirements about this. Then there is the head, which is 15 inches. Around, is it the largest portion it's written? Any two axis. So this one on this axis is 16 and a half. And then we can kind of do the axis here. This one is 17. So this one clearly passes. The next thing we're looking for is this chain. This chain has to be 6 or less inches. Most templates have a measurement device thing on this. This one even says 6-inch flail chain. It's handily labeled. So you're going to, I generally kind of butt it up against the underside of the flail head and see where it lands on the supporting foam of the weapon. So this one you can all clearly see is less than 6 inches there. And then the next thing you're gonna do is you're gonna hit test it. Hopefully, like you've kind of figured this out, touch the thing you're about to hit your body with or somebody else's body with before you do it. There's again a couple different ways to do this. You can hit somebody. Some people will wrap it around their bodies. I prefer bringing it down over my shoulder like so. But there is a handful of different methods. Do what works best for you. Bless you. Any questions? Great. We're gonna do bows, not because I think they're easier, but because it's actually what's closer to me and I don't feel like standing right away. This is a bow. This bow has already been strung. To test a bow, there's a couple like it is, you are going to give a bow tester. I have an electronic one here, but there's also people use like the old-fashioned fish scales, but it is 35 pounds at 28 inches. If you have an arrow that matches that, people do that. Our round, we made like a dummy arrow that pulls, that has exactly at 20 inches. Doing this can be a little wonky and weird, especially when you're holding an arrow in here, and it takes some practice. I'm actually gonna go pick up the arrow and show some things that I do. I cannot draw a bow at 35 pounds, and this one actually pulls at 35 pounds, so I will not be pulling this all the way back, but I will be demonstrating kind of how some techniques you can use to keep this in place. It does. What's up? That's so fair. All right. Have you done this?
No.
All right. So when you're doing this and you're holding it, you also kind of want to hold on to the that with your fingers, like some kind of way.
The knock?
The knock. Yeah. And
So you don't do that?
no, you don't do that. Sorry. That
Underneath
makes
the knock?
The copper piece.
Thanks.
This
Okay.
is Blue's bow, not my bow. All right. You shouldn't if it's doing it correctly. They never like me. I'm just gonna do this because I need to physically do this to be able to explain what to do. All right.
Sorry, I listened to your night.
That's so fair. When I do it, first off, you got to make sure it's zeroed before you go, and I kind of just pinch it back when I do it. I kind of hook my finger on here to kind of keep it in place and add some pressure to it. The important thing to do is make sure you're still, because I like hooked on it, but I am still making sure that I am pulling with the bowstring. So yes, my finger is like hooked to kind of press into it, but I am pulling. I'm not pulling with this finger. This finger is here to just kind of press into it to keep it in place, and I am pulling with my other fingers on the bowstring itself. There's a lot of different ways people do it, and this is just kind of what I have found works for me. I'm not super well versed in all the different ways. This just came from I had to do this a handful of times in experimentation. It's a little wonky, it's a little weird. Sometimes people, to make this easier, will point it up to the sky to kind of let gravity keep the arrow on the ground or on the bowstring better. This is a practice thing. This one just like takes time and practice to figure it out completely. It's not as intuitive as it looks. I've watched people that have done this a whole bunch and like watched the arrow fall off and then be like, damn it. It happens. Don't stress about it. Any questions? Great. All right. Well, I'm holding an arrow, so we will talk about how to check to make sure an arrow is safe. There is a handful of components about arrows that you need to check. First, this one has a little bit of a draw stop here. But when I start looking at an arrow, I start from the tip of the arrow and I work my way down. So we're going to start with the head of the arrow, the same way you would with a sword. You're going to feel it with your hand. You press into it. This is making sure that you can't feel the arrow shaft and things like that. You're also just making sure everything feels like it's attached. There is a like twist test that's kind of done. This is to make sure like if the arrowhead, you don't want the arrowhead to twist on the shaft. Sometimes they'll twist a little just in the heat, but they'll bounce back to like where they were, and that's generally okay. But if it like twists and it stays like that, that's a problem, and that will generally fail an arrow. This one has a little bit of a draw stop. You want to make sure that your arrow shaft has 2 or more fletchings, and you want to make sure the nock is actually attached. Thanks. The nock is actually attached to the arrow shaft. From there, there it is. When you're measuring an arrow, like the arrow is from the head of the arrow to, it is not the end of the nock, it is where draw stop, it's the wrong word. It's from the, yes, from the draw stop, I'm losing my mind, to the center. Nocks exist, they kind of make like a U or a V shape. You're not measuring to the end of the nock here, you're measuring to where it would sit on the bowstring of the bow. So you measure from the nock to here. This one is exactly 27 inches, and if you remember earlier, I said 28 inches is like the maximum length. So this is a good, nice little passing arrow. The final test for this arrow will be a hit test. The Book of War states that it is tested from 20, no, it's 15, isn't it? It's 15 feet, full draw. And if you know anything about projectiles, full draw is only until 20 feet. The Book of War has you check it technically an illegal distance. There's a bunch of debate about whether or not that's an ethical way to test arrows. we're not getting into that here. But that is what the Book of War says. Make your own life. Oh, to make sure the arrow shaft is not cracked, you run your hand over it. You can also shake it too. It'll kind of like look weird. It might make a sound if it's cracked too, when you shake it, just to make sure it's not there. But like many other things, it's kind of just running your hand on stuff. Some of these are fiberglass, so like be careful not to get a fiberglass shard in your finger. But yes. Oh, and if you have an arrow shaft that is wooden or bamboo, it does require to have tape on it. That's also required for weapons, I think. But most people have these fiberglass arrows that I just dropped on the ground. All right. I feel like I've seen wooden ones before. Is there a list of materials for them? Great. Well, Blue, who has their phone, is going to look up the list of materials that I don't have memorized at this point in time. But yeah, and get back to us. This is a crowdsourcing. All right. Talon tossed a javelin in my direction, so we're going to talk about it. This is a javelin. Javelins are distinct, and they have a yellow head. They have all of this is padded. Same thing as all the other weapons. You're going to feel it up. You are feeling to see if you can feel any core in it. You really don't want to. And then again, same with this, you're going to kind of press on it and make sure that you don't feel any core and anything like that. These in Belegarth have to weigh a pound or less. I don't have a scale here. So but you would just put this on a scale and you would make sure it weighs a pound or less. And then for hit checking these, you throw them at somebody, I believe the same distance as you would for arrows. I'm really bad at throwing javelins. We're never going to watch me do that. It's a bad time. There's also rocks. I realized I didn't grab my rock out of my car. Ooh, my rock! This will not help me look up the rules right now, though it says Book of War. This is a rock. Rocks can only kill you if they hit you in the head. They cannot have any hard objects in them or anything like that. So what you do is you kind of feel it up, make sure there's no hard objects that you can feel. This is crocheted with stuffing in it. And then you can throw this at your friend. You can throw this at somebody. You can just like throw it at your own head. But you just got to make sure it's not going to hurt anybody. If somebody's rock comes up and it's like hard or it's got like plastic pieces on it, you fail it. Also, they need to have a diameter of 4 inches. So generally, most rocks are like round objects, and so diameter is not objectively the best way to like figure out how big a rock can be. So the best way to generally what I do is this is like math. How do you figure out the diameter of a round object? Circumference. Yeah. Yeah, you have to do technical math when you're dealing with the round objects. Most of the time, if a rock is like a reasonable size that I think is definitely going to have a diameter of 4 inches or more, I'm not checking that unless it's really close and I really feel like doing math. And I'm not going to try to verbally explain the math right now. I was a psych major, not a math major. It's already been explained. All right. Spear. This is a spear. It's really tall. This is a stab only weapon. Same things with your template. When you're checking weapons, you'll notice that I often template everything first. It's a good idea to template stuff first, just because if it fails for template, you don't have to bring it all the way to check for hit testing, which is a lot of strain on your volunteers. My go-to is if something fails for something, it fails for something. You don't need to continue checking it, especially in a weapons check at events where you're trying to move things quickly. This, you also want to kind of check to make sure that there's no cracks in the core. Again, this is kind of like a rub your hand over it. And then we have half padding. And again, you're just kind of checking to make sure there's no big divots in it where you can feel like a bunch of core that might be problem areas. And also with the can. And then again, you're going to put your hand in this and test it. And then you stab someone with it. This one, you cannot really stab yourself with it. This is a giant weapon. It is unwieldy and unreasonable to try to do that. But you will stab someone in the back. When you're doing this, especially when you're working with another person, some people have preferences for where they want to be stabbed or hit. So like talk to the person you're about to hit about that. A lot of times people backing stuff will have a hand covering the back of their neck and their kidneys because those are both like really bad spots to get hit in. Other places you want to avoid is like, especially if somebody has shoulder blades that flare out a lot, aiming for that really bony area when it's like flared out, it might cause a lot of pain for somebody because it's just like a bunch of nerves there. So talk to the person about exactly where they want to be stabbed. Nobody really likes also getting stabbed directly in the center of the spine. Again, a lot of nerves there, but you stab once, twice, light, medium, hard. Great. And that is a spear. What? Yeah. Don't stab people in the spine. That's like a really bad idea. That's how you accidentally like paralyze someone. You have so many important nerves there. All right, final weapon, red sword. You tell it's a red sword, not just because it's long, but also because it has red tape on it and green tape. So this one is stab legal. Again, template those. This is a flat weapon. As you can see, it still doesn't go through the hole in our template. There are some that have curved tips, and there is a rule that if it's like a flat bladed weapon with a like semicircular tip, that it can be, when you measure across, it is 2.5 inches, because that semicircular tip will poke through the template. But we as a group decided that those should still pass if they are a flat surface here with, imagine semicircle, flat surface here, 2.5 inches. I don't have one of those here as an example, but that is in the book of war. This is what I was talking about when you want to make sure you hit it on both sides. This is a flat bladed weapon. You don't want to just check one side of this weapon. That's not actually a successful test of hit test for this. Same thing like with everything else. You're going to feel up the weapon. Make sure you don't feel any core. You're also, people do it different ways. You can pat with both fingers. Again, an important thing to remember is you don't want to be digging your fingers into something, creating a hole in the foam. You're here to like widely check and see if there's issues, not jam a thumb in through somebody's foam. This has a little bit of courtesy padding here. There's no like big divots. It's fine. This one, you swing once light. You're going to flip it over. You're going to swing medium. You're going to flip it over. You're going to swing another time hard, and you're going to flip it over. And do you do normally medium, or hard at the hard? Okay. So light, medium, flip it again, hard, flip it again, hard. Same thing about with spears. Talk to the person, see if they have a preference about where they're being hit. Obviously, do not hit people in the backs of the head, directly on the spine. Elbows are also bad. It sometimes happens though. Talk to the person you're about to hit a weapon against. You cannot successfully hit test this weapon against your own body. It is too big. Does anyone have any questions? Great. Thank you all for coming. I hope this was helpful. Again, I'm Squire Nia. You stab test reds and blues if they have green tape on them, as I said in the beginning with blues as well. Great.